You ever meet someone whose smile feels off, not fake, just too warm, too perfect, like it was rehearsed? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The most deceptive people often smile the hardest because when they can't control you with honesty, they'll disarm you with charm. Psychologists call it duper's delight, a real phenomenon where liars feel pleasure while deceiving you. Their eyes wrinkle, their cheeks lift, but there's no warmth in the pupils, only calculation. Jung would call that the persona, a social mask we wear to survive. But behind every overly bright persona there's a shadow, a darkness so well hidden even its owner can't see it. And that's the danger. You're not shaking hands with a person. You're shaking hands with a mask. And if a smile can be a mask, what happens when that mask reaches out its hand? Ever notice how the people who betray you are often the first to offer friendship? It isn't random. Machiavelli warned that alliances are rarely about loyalty, they're about leverage. The one who greets you first wants to lower your guard because the best trap never looks like a threat, it looks like an opportunity. In business, it's the partner who floods you with praise and urgency. In love, it's the mirror soul who reflects every word until they get what they want. Then comes silence, distance, the knife. There's a pattern, first the smile, then the hook, then the wound. And by the time you realize what happened, you've already handed them everything they need to destroy you. Because the friendliest trap isn't a handshake, it's help with a price tag you can't see, yet you've felt it before. Someone offers you help, a gift, even kindness, and yet your stomach tightens. Everything looks right, they're smiling, they're generous. But something deep inside whispers, this isn't safe. That isn't paranoia. It's your nervous system catching signals your mind hasn't named yet. A tension in the voice, a gesture too quick, an absence of real warmth. Real kindness comes with no strings. Predatory kindness arrives wrapped in guilt, obligation, future debt. The favor that says, now you owe me. The gift that feels like a leash. That tension you feel isn't fear, it's truth. Your body saying, this good deed comes with a hook. And that hook appears where you least expect it, inside the circle you thought was safe. Betrayal almost never comes from enemies because enemies attack from the front. You expect them, you're ready. But a friend, a partner, they stroll right past your defenses, not because they're stronger but because you let them in. The deepest wounds aren't carved by force, they're carved by trust. Jung called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to see. The twist, the closer someone is, the more of your shadow they carry. Your hopes, your ideals, your blind spots. So when they turn on you, it doesn't just hurt, it shatters the image you held of yourself. That's why betrayal by a friend cuts so much deeper than hate from a foe. Safety was once a gesture, one that's been weaponized since the first time humans clasped hands. A handshake used to mean one thing, I don't have a weapon. An open palm proved you came in peace. Today that same gesture is a symbol of trust, easy to fake, easy to exploit. The moment someone reaches out, you're trained to drop your guard, assume alliance, believe you stand on the same side. That's where the trap lives. History is crowded with handshakes that hid knives. A politician sealing a deal before backstabbing days later. A business partner closing a contract while plotting a takeover. A friend saying, let's work together before sabotaging you. The handshake hasn't changed, but the people behind it have. Sometimes the warmest grip is just camouflage for the coldest move. But if the gesture can deceive, who exactly is likely to be holding the blade? Not everyone who smiles is safe. So who most often hides the knife behind their back? Psychologists point to 3 familiar manipulators. The narcissist, all charm and confidence until you say no. The passive aggressor never confronts directly, poisons slowly with silence and sarcasm. The charismatic traitor, magnetic on the surface, every word a chess move. Spotting them early is vital. Listen to the first 5 minutes. The narcissist speaks only of themselves and never asks about you. The passive aggressor slips barbs inside jokes. The charismatic manipulator mirrors you too perfectly. If someone makes you feel seen too fast, pause. Real connection takes time. Manipulation doesn't. Knowing the profile is useless if you keep hitting snooze on your own alarm bells. You didn't miss the signs. You felt them. The tight breath, the pause before answering, that tension that vanished too quickly. Instead of stepping back, you leaned in because believing the best in someone feels safer than facing the truth, especially if the truth means standing alone. Jung said, we do not see the world as it is, but as we are. When you want to believe, your mind reshapes reality to fit hope. It edits out danger, silences instinct, because what you fear more than betrayal is having no one left to trust. The paradox: the more you want to trust, the blinder you become to the one thing trying to protect you, your own intuition. And nothing triggers that intuition faster than kindness that feels calculated. The most dangerous manipulation doesn't begin with control, it begins with kindness. They offer help, support, even protection, buying one priceless commodity. Your trust, it feels like generosity, but the gift soon whispers, "You owe me." Suddenly every no equals betrayal. Boundaries are met with guilt or silence. They didn't seize your power, you handed it over, willingly, gratefully, blindly. That's why this tactic works. It never looks like a threat. It looks like loyalty, until the day you try to leave and realize the chains were forged by your own hands. Listen closely. The setup always echoes in the words they choose. Betrayal never enters shouting, it slips in whispering. It sounds like comfort, reassurance, promises of honesty and loyalty, exactly what you long to hear and no one else has ever said. That's the trap. Words cost nothing but buy access to your thoughts, your fears, your trust. By the time you see the promises were empty, it's too late. You've let them too close, shared too much. When the knife finally comes, you remember every syllable they used to get near enough to use it. Those words find the softest hearts, and that is exactly why good people become targets. It isn't weakness that paints a target on your back, it's kindness. Good people assume the best, give second chances, hesitate to judge. That hesitation is all a manipulator needs. They don't hunt for strength, they hunt for softness. The person who says yes when they want to say no, who keeps the peace even while bleeding inside. The cruelest part is you blame yourself, too trusting, too naive. But goodness isn't the problem, silence is. The way to stop being the perfect mark isn't to turn cold, but to learn that a loving no can guard both hearts. Centuries ago, Machiavelli turned that soft spot into a weapon, and the strategy hasn't changed. Machiavelli never valued kindness for its own sake. To him, trust was strategy, a door you unlock so the enemy can step closer before you strike. The most efficient betrayal doesn't arrive with force, it arrives with friendship, a smile, access. Once they have your trust, there's no need to fight. You hand them your time, your loyalty, your secrets. Today the masks are modern. Self-help gurus selling hope for control, colleagues posing as allies until they step over you, friends listening just long enough to learn where to cut. They don't steal power. They're invited in, and once inside they never ask for your crown. They wait for you to set it down. Which forces us to ask, what happens when the blade we fear is actually in our own hand? We talk about betrayal as if it always comes from the outside. But what if the knife isn't behind someone else's back? What if it's in ours? Think back. Have you ever smiled through clenched teeth, offered kindness not from love but survival, laughed with someone you secretly wished would disappear? Jung believed we are both the betrayed and the betrayer. In the shadow we've buried live resentment, manipulation, silent revenge. Maybe you never acted on it, but the thought was real. The scariest betrayal is the one we could commit ourselves, because that means the danger isn't just out there, it's in here. In the part of us we pretend doesn't exist but still grips the blade. Because once the blade falls, hindsight snaps into focus. It's eerie how bright the signs become after the damage is done. You replay every glance, every pause, every too perfect compliment, and suddenly it all adds up. You whisper, "I knew it." You did know somewhere. You just didn't want it to be true. We rationalize, excuse, reframe because believing in someone feels safer than admitting they might hurt us. We turn warning bells into background noise, rewrite their actions as kindness, protect the story we want until it collapses. When betrayal finally hits, the deepest sting isn't their lie, it's how hard we work to believe it. So how do we stay open without walking blindfolded into the next cut? Real protection doesn't come from fear, it comes from clarity. You don't have to flinch at every smile or bolt the door to every hand extended. You just have to see, really see. Notice the shift when someone doesn't get what they want, the silence between their words, the speed at which they pull you in. Sun Tzu said, "Every battle is won before it is fought. Awareness prevents the war before it starts." You'll never need to fight betrayal if you never invite it inside. Stay warm, stay kind, but stay awake. Your peace isn't guarded by walls, it's guarded by wisdom. And when the guard is up but the heart is still warm, that's when real trust finally shows its face. Real trust doesn't rise from words, promises, or even time. If you're still waiting for proof, still watching for signs, still carrying that tightening in your chest, something inside already knows it isn't safe. True trust feels different. It's quiet. No masks to hold up, no tension to manage. You're not performing or bracing. You're simply there, seen and seeing. Jung believed that once we make peace with our own shadow, we stop projecting it onto others. We stop fearing betrayal in every glance because we've faced the betrayer within. That's what a genuine connection looks like. Not perfect, but honest. Not because you need to trust, but because deep down,